Hi. See if he's there. He's not there.
Everybody?
And I turned on the recorder.
Okay, we got it. Okay. I just want to take a minute and just put a little plug in for Kevin, because Kevin is a real interesting counselor we have here. Kevin is an ordained minister, and he's also the chaplain for hospice. Kevin has spent a lot of time working for hospice, so I think you will really enjoy his podcast on forgiveness tomorrow night at 6 if you get the chance to come to it. Okay? All right. I'm going to begin. We're talking on step 6 and 7 today. So I picked a reading from July 6th from the language of letting go. July 6th. Humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. In the 6th and 7th steps of the program, we become willing to let go of our defects of character, issues, behaviors, old feelings, unresolved grief, and beliefs that are blocking us from the joy that is ours. Then we ask God to take them from us. Isn't that simple? We don't have to contort ourselves to make ourselves change. We have to force change. For once, we don't have to do it ourselves. All we have to do is strive for an attitude of willingness and humility. All we have to do is ask God for what we want and need, and then trust God to do for us, which we cannot and do not have to do for ourselves. We have to watch with bated breath for how and when this shall change. This is not a self-help program. In this miraculous and effective program that has brought about recovery and change for millions, who become changed by working the steps. Today, God, help me surrender to recovery and the process by which I become changed. Help me focus on the step I need. Help me do my part, relax, and allow the rest to happen naturally. I want to do that reading today because I want to talk a lot about step 6 and step 7, and you have to kind of put up with me today. I get excited about these two steps. I have nicknames for these steps because they were a big part of my journey in my life. I refer to them as the itsy bitsy steps. Why do I refer to them as that? Because you notice where they are. They're right at the center of the program, step 6 and step 7. We also call them the Cornerstone Steps. What I have found in the past, a lot of people in recovery work the first 5 steps. They'll do a good 4th step inventory. They'll share it. But then all of a sudden, for some reason, some of us have a tendency to take a vacation. And we figure we'll get to step 6 and 7 later on. But really, in reality, to really begin to work the steps and work the program, these 2 steps are critical. They're very important. Whenever I talk about these steps and I share them because I share them on a personal level, I refer to them as the 2 steps that give us the gift of our humanity, the gift of our humanness, and also the gift of humility. I think one of the hardest things for all of us, I know as a codependent, as a person in recovery, I have a hard time letting go of control. Control has always been one of my defects of character. The second defect I've always had a hard time with, and the 6th step teaches me to get in touch with my defects of character, to identify them, and to realize the fact I have plenty of them. Other defects of character I always had was to be hard on myself, to judge myself, and to constantly always worry about what everybody else was thinking and whether I could do things or not do them. As a result, for a long period of my life, I was scared to take a risk. I was scared to take a chance. And above all, my God, I was scared of change. See, a lot of that centralizes around the concept of control. What I realize is I learned something from this beautiful program that in order to get in touch with my defects of character, all they're asking me to do is to get in touch with my humanness. You know, I don't know about you, but one of the things I've always had a problem with, and I struggle with it, is my concept of constant perfectionism. Always trying to find the right answer to everything. Always trying to do things perfectly. And I found out all of a sudden through this program, you don't have to do that. It's nice to be a human being. It's nice to have defects. It's nice to be defective. I never thought my wildest dreams, my wildest imagination I'd say that it's okay to be defective. But we all go through things in kind of a tough way. And I learned how these two steps helped me to look at a whole new concept of life. And I want to share a story with you that I bring this out. It's a very important story in my life. I said this to you plenty of times before. If you had known me when I was a young priest and I was, just getting started, I'm going way back now, I was kind of caught in what I call being a little bit rigid, very controlling, and I wanted things to always kind of work. And so I kind of pushed myself in very many ways. But then I was studying for my degree in counseling at LaSalle University. And I told this story before. One of the gifts I received at LaSalle University, studying for my master's degree, was that in the summertime, I only went in the summer, they actually would import European faculty to come and teach in the summertime. So one of my greatest teachers, and I'm grateful to him to the day I die, is a gentleman, a Belgian Jesuit named Father Jerry. Jerry used to teach a beautiful course at LaSalle, and he did something for me that I could not do for myself. And I learned after a while that God always sends into our life these teachers that allow you to begin to experience your humanness. Jerry called me aside one day and had a talk with me. And he said to me, of course, he had an accent when he said this. I'm going to try to do his accent. But he said to me, he said, I've been watching you. You have a hard time with all this stuff I'm talking about, don't you? I said, well, yeah. I said, I really don't understand because all my life, I've always been a C student, a C- student. I've always had a hard time with education, a hard time with classes. I've always had a hard time with reading. I've had a hard time with a lot of things in my life. And I've always kind of beat myself up, put myself down because I compared myself to everybody else. And I should be able to do this. Here goes those shouldas again. I should be able to do this. I should be able to do that. They're able to do it. Why can't I do it? And I played that game for a long period of time. And Jerry said to me, stop. Why don't you just be who you are? Why don't you stay within the realm of your own self? Now, I'll be honest with you. I didn't know what he was talking about. It took me a while to understand that one. But he began to understand. He taught me a gift. And he said, remember, you might be a C student in a classroom, but you're an A+ student in life. Now, I really couldn't get that together, but he finally realized the fact that he said to me, if you have the courage to embrace your defects, to embrace your humanness, and build a relationship with it, then you will be able to discover your assets, because every defect has an asset. And that was a hard thing for me to understand back in the beginning. But he said, don't look at things negatively. Try to remember that we're human beings. We have our little idiosyncrasies. We have our little behaviors. But if we have the courage to embrace them, to acknowledge them, and that's one thing the sixth step did for me. It told me to get in touch with my defects of character, not to run away from them, but to embrace them. They're part of who I am. But he taught me that if I truly embrace them and get in touch with them, and then if I just allow that to happen, in time, you will discover and get in touch with your gifts, your qualities, because we are the hardest judge of ourselves. That's one of the reasons why I want to do that reading today, because it says in the seventh step, humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. And what I've learned is, instead of humbly asking God to remove them, help me to accept them. And then when you are ready, help me to be able to use them in a positive way. Help me to be able to take some risks and growth in my life, but realize the fact that you're guiding me. What does that mean? It means I got to take a back seat. I'm not in charge. And the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life was let go of that control, to stop trying to figure it out. This may sound strange, but I want it to sound strange. What I've learned in life is every time you try to figure it out, you don't figure it out. Every time you let go, and as they say in the third step, you let God, your higher presence, be in charge, then in time, everything finds its way. Everything goes where it's supposed to go. But that involves faith, that involves trust, that involves being open, and that involves to stop trying to make things happen. Things will happen when they're supposed to. Just have a sense of faith, a sense of trust, and a sense of humility, and realize the fact that we're on a journey. And I learned this in so many different areas of my life today, because for a long period of time, I didn't even know what it was to get in touch with feelings. But I'm human, and I have my humanness. And my humanness belongs to me, not to anybody else, because your humanness is yours. Congratulations. Isn't it wonderful? That means we're all different. We all have our little things. We all have our idiosyncrasies. We have our beliefs. We have all different parts that make us who we are. And I call these 2 steps getting in touch with what I call the Mosaic of Life. It's like life is this gigantic mosaic. We all have different parts. They get to know me and get to love me. The steps are trying to teach me to be able to embrace who I am. And what I learned as a result of being able to finally acknowledge my defects, I began to experience so many beautiful gifts that were hidden inside of me for a long period of time. You know, it's ironical talking about the 6th and 7th step today, because I'm involved in doing my step work in another program right now. And the topic we're going to be working with tomorrow is the 6th step. And I get a big kick out of that. See how God works? God simply says, hey, Vincenzo, stop trying to figure it out. You know, sometimes I think God's Italian. What can I tell you? But anyway, stop trying to figure it out. And just realize I'm here. I'm working with you. Just have faith. Be open. And I'm learning that every time I'm able to acknowledge things in my life, then I'm able to eventually in time discover other parts of myself as a person. But guess what it involves? Patience. It involves time. It involves faith. It involves trust. It involves risk. It involves being open to new things and new directions. It involves being able to move in new areas of your life. You know, I laugh about this today because one of the gifts I've learned, and I learned this from so many beautiful people in this program, that when you speak from your heart, you speak from your spirit, from the inside of you, then it's real. If you speak from your head, it gets a little screwed up. What can I tell you? This thing's wacky. And I know in my own life, I'm learning. And I'll give you an example of this in my own life. I always laugh about it today. When I was a young priest, I used to get very kind of heady about my sermons. I used to write them, memorize them, go over to the church and practice them. Then on Sunday morning, in about 3 minutes, everybody was asleep. They were boring as hell because I was trying to basically figure them out. Now I've learned something through this program. You speak from your spirit, you speak from your heart, you speak from what's inside of you, and half the time you don't even know what you're saying. And at the same time, it's okay, because the higher power, we are channels, and that channel is who we are. But that involves a real gift of faith and belief. That involves the fact of not trying to figure out how it's going to work. Everything will find its way. You know, I find this interesting because a friend of mine who's a plumber, you learn from some of the strangest people. I get a kick out of it. He's a plumber and he used to say to me, see, you have a leak on your roof, don't you? See that spot up there? He said, well, you want me to come and fix that leak? He said, but guess what? I'm not going to look at where the spot is. We're going to go find out where the leak is. I said, what do you mean? I can see it. There's that brown spot up on the ceiling. That's not the leak, he said. Because I understand something, his plumber, he said about water. It's going to find a way. But the leak is coming from someplace else. And as a result, this happened at starting point. He finally figured it out, where the leak was coming from. It was coming from the ceiling in the ladies' room. I said, what do you mean? We're out here. He said, no, we have to follow the leak. I didn't know this, but we had a little hot water heater up in the ceiling of the ladies' room that handled the hot water in the sink. And it was leaking, but it couldn't get out there. So it kind of went someplace else and came out. Does that sound like us? It's amazing, isn't it? Because every time something's going on inside of us, we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to analyze it, trying to figure out why. And in reality, when you learn to let go, all of a sudden the answers come. It's all part of it. And I've learned over the years, though the hardest things in life to do is to let go of control. One of the hardest things in life to do is to take risks, open up doors. We know why, because it might not work. And if it doesn't work, it's because it's not supposed to work. That was a hard thing for me to get through my head. So you have to make it work. No, you don't. These steps remind us of who's in charge. They remind us that we are not the architects. We are simply the players. And that our spirit is deep down inside of each and every one of us. And if we truly allow ourselves to experience the gift of these steps, to acknowledge your humanness, to acknowledge your mistakes, you're able to forgive. You're able to make forgiveness of self and of others. That's why these steps come before the 8th and 9th steps, the amends steps, because you can't make amends to anybody else unless you make them to yourself. And we have to, first of all, acknowledge who we are and that we have shortcomings. We may have a temper. We have a lot of different things in the course of our life, but realizing the reality is we have to be able to acknowledge who we are. And Jerry taught me something so very beautifully. He said, Vince, acknowledge your gifts. And I'm going to tell you a couple stories now. Once I was able to start crossing that bridge and going to the other side, I began to realize the fact that, for example, I've written 3 books. I never thought I could write a book in my whole entire life, but I can't read my own books. Want to know why? I get bored. I get bored. I don't mind writing them. I have a hard time reading them. The reason is because I've got a thing called ADD, and I have to have stimulation as I do things in life. And that's okay. What I learned, though, positively from all of that, I can do 2 things at one time. Isn't that great? Now I know why I'm a Gemini. I have two different heads. What can I tell you? And sometimes I think I got 6 different heads. It makes me crazy sometimes. But I learned to laugh at life a little bit. Another thing is I have my license as a registered basketball official. I've never read the rule book. So how the hell did you get your license? Because I learned one of the things once I acknowledged my defect. I'm not a reader. I can't memorize stuff like that. I learned from absorbing. I can pick up stuff from other people. I can absorb things. I can pick them up. And when I allow myself to become open to that, different ideas, things come into your mind. You can pick up things. I was talking to somebody here at Starting Point this morning, and she was sharing some things with me. And I said, in my mind, I was saying, that would make a great lecture. You know, that was fantastic. She gave me some good food for thought, some things I can connect with. And I really believe the greatest teachers on the face of this earth, and I've said this so many times in my life, are all of us. Remember the little thing I used back in the beginning when I talked about this? I said the greatest library on the face of the earth is the human library. Every one of us has a story. Every one of us is unique. Every one of us is special. Every one of us is on this earth for a purpose. Every one of us has a wonderful story. Sure, we have tragedies in our story. We have hurt, we have pain. We have all those things that go along with it. We have losses. We have things that have happened to us. We have joy. We have celebration. We have a mixture of many things. That's what I mean by the mosaic of life. I don't want life just to be this cookie cutter life where I wake up, I do this, I do that, then I go to sleep. You know, so many people don't live life. They actually survive life. They go through the exact same thing every day. They don't even know who they are. And they just sit around and wait for the undertaker to come. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to have it, to celebrate who I am. And the steps have helped me to begin to realize it's more than just putting an addiction down. It's about learning who I am and getting in touch with who I am and acknowledging my qualities, acknowledging the gifts of myself. But to do that, I have to also acknowledge my defects. Isn't it great to have both? But I've learned by acknowledging, by embracing my defects, I'm learning my assets. And so every defect has an asset. Every negative has a positive. All the experiences we've gone through in life, and sometimes we got to do it the hard way. You know, welcome to the club. Come on. We all got that disease. My father used to tell me that Italian disease called un capitosa. That's called brickhead in Italian. Isn't it amazing we got to do it the hard way first? And then finally we learn to let go and let things happen. Now, one of my funniest stories is I put my car in the garage one day when it went and now it was time to leave. I couldn't find the keys to my car. I couldn't find them anywhere. I was going nuts. Thank God I had a spare. But I finally said something. I come from an old school. So I used to say, you know what? I want to say a prayer to St. Anthony and give it to him. You know, we used to talk about St. Anthony, lost and found. So I said a prayer. I said, you know, it's you. Go find my keys for me, will you? Leave me alone. I can't find them. So I let it go. 3 days later, I started to pull my car back into the garage again. And I saw something shining on the garage floor. And so I got down on my knees and I looked. It was the keys. They were sitting there all the time. But I basically just didn't see them because I wasn't ready to see them. I'm using that as an analogy because that's how life is. Sometimes you're trying to make something happen. It's not ready to happen. But when we do learn to get out of the way, to have a sense of faith and trust, to be able to realize the fact that, yes, I may have a hard time doing things in certain ways, but I can learn things in other ways. I was getting frustrated today because I learned how to turn this computer on and I was doing a real good job. And today I couldn't figure out what the hell I was doing. So finally somebody told me I had put a period someplace where there's not supposed to be a period. One little period. And it was driving me crazy. And then, of course, I'd ask for some help. Isn't that wonderful? To ask for help. Isn't that a magical word? I'd ask for help, and somebody said, well, you got a period where it's not supposed to be. Oh, okay. Took the period out and everything worked. And yet it's that one little period. But you know what God was saying to me at that moment? Go get some help. Stop trying to figure it out. Say those magical words. Right back to the second step and the third step again, those foundation steps. Ask for help, ask for guidance. If you can't handle something, it's okay. You don't have to handle it. How many times in life we actually think we have to handle everything? No, don't. If you can't, you can't. Acknowledging it and embracing it, then you'll learn the gift of being able to have a sense of humility to ask for some help and ask for some guidance and connect with other people in the course of your journey. That's why we have each other. And that's why I'm going to tell you a secret now. Don't tell anybody, okay? Lisa, make sure you don't tell anybody. Here we go. The first word in our program is the word we. It's called W-E. Gabish, you got that? It means that you can't do it by yourself. You have to learn the value of asking for help, doing it in conjunction with others. And none of us are any better than anybody else. We're all just a bunch of human beings on a journey, and we're family. We're all interconnected with one another. We're learning from each other. We grow from each other. We all have stories. We all have it's wonderful. It's fantastic. But you learn by being open. And that's what that seventh step is trying to teach you. Humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. If they are to be removed, and if not, accept them and learn something positive from them. So handicaps sometimes are healthy. They're part of who we are. And we all have something. So it's all part of the process. And so really what the steps are trying to do, from the first step right on through, they're trying to teach us who we are, teach us to be able to heal ourselves, forgive ourselves, make peace with ourselves, and be able to every day wake up in the morning, look in that mirror and say, hi, beautiful. Glad to see you again today. We're on a journey. Let's do the best we can and try to be positive, even though we might wake up grouchy, make up like you want to punch somebody in the head. But at the same time, you're not going to punch anybody. We're too busy punching ourselves. And so now I have to realize the fact that I got to look at my defects and my assets. You know, I joke about this, but I'm a morning person. And I used to years ago expect everybody else to be a morning person, but not everybody's a morning person. And so therefore, we have to realize the fact that we're all different. You know, when I first got into my food recovery program, I'll never forget this. You know, I got into a program called OA, Overeaters Anonymous. And I remember when I was early in recovery, I used to go grocery shopping and I would check out everybody else's basket. And I would say, that lady's a food addict. Look what she's got in her cart. That one's got problems. That one's got problems. That one's got problems. And then somebody said to me one day, look on your own damn cart. Work your own program. Stop looking at everybody else's. So you can't fix everybody else. You can leave them alone, but you can work on yourself and take care of yourself. Now I look at these two steps and I get excited. That's why I told you I get excited about them, because it really helped me to begin to treat myself as a human being. To realize if I make a mistake, you make a mistake. Your mistakes are wonderful, by the way. We learn from our mistakes. That's the key to the whole thing. My father said something to me so beautifully. It took me till I was older to finally understand what the hell he was talking about. My father used to say, Wayon, you will never know what it is to get up until you fall down. Falling down is part of life and getting up is part of life. These are words of people that have been through the struggles. I mean, I don't think I could have went through half the things he went through. He was trying to teach me as a kid. But like everybody else who tries to teach me when I'm young, I got to wait till I get older to finally have it go up and the bell ring in my head. Is that amazing how this works? Look, even when you get into recovery, you know, people can actually tell us we got a problem, tell us we got to do this, show us that. It's only until we are ready to admit to the fact of the reality of who we are. And one thing I look back on this, I shared with you before, I have this thing called an addictive personality. And believe it or not, it's a gift. I never thought it was a gift. I thought it was a curse. But now I realize something, it's a gift. And so every day I say, thank you, Mom, for giving me the gift of my addictive personality. I can say that now. I sure as hell didn't say that in 1985. I called her a few names for giving this to me. But now I realize it really is a gift. If it wasn't for these steps and working these steps and working through them and continuing to work through them, because I'm not done. Please don't ever be done, please. You know, you're done about 15 years after you're dead. That's okay. Codependence, 50 years after you're dead. We still think we got to work on ourselves even after we leave this earth. We're amazing people, we really are. But the bottom line is, you have to realize don't ever be done. And I got a sign on my wall back here, and I always love the sign. It's my retirement plan. It says, my retirement plan takes place 5 years after I die. That's amazing. that means I got to try to do something crazy in between. But you know, I also learned something else from these two steps. Have a sense of humor. Laugh at yourself. Do you ever think you'd laugh at your idiosyncrasies? Laugh at some other things? And I guess what I'm learning the most from these two steps is stop being so hard on yourself. Stop judging yourself. Stop looking at you. Oh, you'll do it. I know I'll do it. We'll all do it. But remember, it's okay. And the forgiveness, healing, they're all part of these two steps. They teach us, you know, come on, you're a human being, you're in the human world. And guess what? We live in a world that last time I checked, and I always tell you this, we live in a dysfunctional world. Dysfunctionality is normal. The secret is, can I embrace it? Can I learn from it? Can I grow from it? And can I move forward? But I really believe in something very strong about these steps. If you truly do acknowledge your defects of character and you give them to God, in time, you'll discover your assets and discover your gifts. We're all gifted. We all have gifts. And yet we have to be able to come to that point where I'm willing to turn it over and I'm willing to ask for help. And I'm asking to realize the fact that I'm not in charge. I'm on a journey in this world just as you are. We're all part of one another. But I can't do it without you and you can't do it without me. We're family. Isn't that fantastic? I love it. Let's go back to that word we again. You know, I look at recovery today and I am so much gratitude for the people I'm in recovery with, for the people I meet, for the people right here today, for the family that we have together. And we're all just a bunch of human beings. And we have to learn to stop judging ourselves. And I want to tell you a secret. When I learned to be good to myself, I'm then good to others. If I stop judging myself, then I'll stop judging others. Is that amazing? Kind of sounds so simple, doesn't it? It ain't that simple. You got to work on it. That's all part of it. And so what I want to do today in my prayer is offer this prayer to the higher power, our higher presence, to help me, to guide me, and allow me to be open to the journeys of life. So let us pray. God, I come before you today as a simple servant. I come before you with a sense of humility and a sense of growth. I ask your help, I ask your guidance, and I put things into your hands, knowing that if I have faith and I have patience, and I just do my work on this earth, that in time, whatever's supposed to be revealed to me will be revealed. Help me to have faith. Help me to have trust. Help me to be open. Help me to let go of all the things I think I can control. Help me just to walk the journey to the best of my ability every day. Help me to enjoy the people I'm connected with. Help me to be open to learn from my experiences and the lessons. Help me have to face my fears. Help me to face my losses. Help me to go through my struggles, knowing that through those struggles and through those things I experience, I'll be able to become stronger and learn more beautiful things in my life. I come to you in gratitude today. I come to you in humility. I come to you in love. I ask you to walk with me, guide me, strengthen me. And if I fall, please help pick me back up again to continue the journey. But knowing that once in a while I'm going to fall, because that's my humanness. And I have gratitude for that every day of my life. I ask your guidance, I ask your direction, and I pray especially for those who have gone before me, those who have been guides to me in my journey in my life, and so many of them. I'm grateful for every messenger, every guide, every person I've met on this journey, for they're all teachers, and hopefully I can be a pupil in their lives too. So we ask you, God, to help me, guide me, and guide us on our journey today. We ask this every day, and we ask this in your name. Amen. I'm going to ask all of you to don't mind unmuting, and we'll kind of close out by saying that wonderful prayer, the Serenity Prayer.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. God's will, not mine, be done.